It was the kind of day you want to bottle up and keep forever. The sky over Cedar Grove was pale blue, soft as a robin's egg, and the air held just enough chill to remind you summer was gone, but life hadn't yet turned gray. My daughter and I had spent the morning chasing squirrels at the park, her tiny hand in mine, her laugh skipping ahead of us like sunlight through tree branches. We split a peanut butter sandwich on a worn-out bench, counted clouds, and she beat me, again, in a race to the car. When we got home, she curled up under her favorite quilt, cheeks pink from the wind, breathing soft and even. I sat there on the couch, full in a way no meal could give you. A good kind of tired. Peaceful. Then the front door clicked. Susan came in quiet, sat down next to me like she was still moving. Her hands trembled, just a little. Her face, God, her face was clenched like a fist holding something it shouldn't. "I need to tell you something," she said. And just like that, the perfect day shattered. Stay with me. I promised by the end of this story, you'll see how even the most broken pieces can be picked up again. I'm Robert, 33, a working man, a husband, a dad, and up until a few weeks ago, I thought I understood what those words meant. It was one of those long, honest days that tuck into your bones. I'd spent the morning chasing Lily around the park, laughing like fools at ducks, letting her win races to the car like she always did. Her hair smelled like peanut butter and sun, and when we got home, she curled right into me on the couch, blanket and all, like she always had. I remember thinking how lucky I was. That quiet kind of lucky. Not the kind you brag about, but the kind you carry in your chest and whisper thanks for. I was already planning our next day. Maybe the zoo. Maybe pancakes after. Then Emily walked in. She moved slow like something was weighing down her shoes, sat next to me with a careful kind of closeness, like she needed to say something but her mouth didn't trust her heart. I turned toward her. Her face was not sad exactly, just distant, tight. Her jaw stiff like she was biting something back, and her eyes, those eyes I used to know like the back of my own hand, looked wet and far away, like she wasn't in the room at all. And in that moment, before a word was spoken, my gut knew something was wrong, something big. You don't always need fireworks to know your world's about to split. Sometimes it's just the way your wife can't meet your eyes when your daughter's asleep between. This is the story of what came next, and if you've ever thought your love was enough to keep someone from walking away, you might want to stay with me through this one. "You okay?" I asked her, just casual enough not to scare off whatever was clearly weighing her down. I was still sore from the park. My daughter had worn me out, but in that good way. The kind of tired that comes from loving something more than you love yourself. Emily sat beside me like she was trying not to break the cushions. Her hands were rubbing at her jeans, one over the other, over and over again. Something was trembling in her fingers, and I knew. I didn't know what, but my gut, deep and old and always right, told me I was about to get knocked flat. She looked up with that strange mix in her eyes. Guilt, sure, but something else too. Resolve, maybe. That look folks get before they say something they know you won't come back from. "I need to tell you something," she said. Her voice was steady but soft, like it had been practiced in the mirror. "It's big." I felt something twist in my chest. Big like what? Cancer? Job loss? Was it her folks? Had something happened to Lily? I leaned in a little, tried to keep my voice calm. "What is it?" She hesitated, just one beat too long. Long enough for me to hear the silence fill with awful possibilities. Then she looked me dead in the eye. Didn't blink, didn't cry, just said it like she was reading it off a piece of paper. "She's not yours." The world paused. "What?" I asked. Not really asking, more like trying to keep standing while everything underneath me was shifting. "Lily," she said, "she's not biologically yours." I blinked, and in that moment, all I could hear was the echo of my daughter's laugh from earlier that day, sticky fingers, her head on my chest, the way she said, "I love you, Daddy." My brain couldn't put the pieces together, couldn't match those words with that child. Not mine, but she is mine. She's the one who calls out for me when she has nightmares, the one I swaddled and sang to and held when she had her first fever. My thoughts started racing. I was in two places at once, sitting on the couch in our living room and also falling through some dark void where nothing made sense anymore. Then Emily spoke again. Her voice cracked this time. "I have an affair." My stomach dropped like a stone in a well. "It was with this guy from the gym," she said. "It didn't mean anything. It was only a few times. Before I found out I was pregnant." Her voice was small now, like she was talking to herself. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Not at first. But I suspected. And then I knew. But you were so happy. I didn't want to ruin that." I didn't say anything. Couldn't. My whole world had tilted sideways. She kept going. "I told myself it didn't matter. That you were her father in every way that counts. And you are, Robert, you are." But I couldn't keep lying. My throat was tight. I stared straight ahead, not really seeing anything. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something. But mostly I wanted to run to Lily's room, hold her, and pretend none of this had happened. But the words were out now. They were in the air, heavy, irrevocable. And suddenly I couldn't even remember how to breathe right. The betrayal wasn't just in her body. It was in the lie she let live. For 3 years, she let me love that little girl, our little girl, without telling me the truth. And I did love her, every scraped knee, every silly drawing, every sleepy bedtime whisper. My hands were shaking. I hadn't even realized. "Do you know who the father is?" I asked. I hated myself for asking, but I had to know. She nodded. "Yeah, he doesn't know. He moved out of state. I haven't seen him in years. It meant nothing. I swear to you, Robert, it meant nothing." But that wasn't true. It meant something now. It meant everything now. And the worst part, I didn't know what to do with all that pain. It wasn't sharp. It was dull, deep, the kind that settles in and makes a home inside your ribs. I got up, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, didn't drink it. Just stood there, still, hollow, listening to the quiet creak of our house, the home we built, the home that felt like it might never be the same. Behind me, she didn't say a word. She knew some lines, once crossed, can't be walked back, over. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because I was punishing her, but because I couldn't lie beside her and pretend that things were still whole. And Lily, she woke up crying at 3 a.m. She wanted water, wanted to be held. I went in, tucked her in, kissed her forehead. She looked up at me, half asleep, and said, "I love you, Daddy." And that broke me. Because no matter what Emily had done, no matter what blood ran in that child's veins, I still loved her. But love like that, love that big, that pure, it shouldn't come with lies attached to it. So I knew then, nothing about our family was going to stay the same. Not anymore. My legs were shaking, but I forced myself to stand. You ever feel like the air in a room just doesn't belong to you anymore? Like the walls themselves are closing in and you can't find the door? That's what it felt like. Emily was still sitting there, hands clutched tight, like she was praying for something she didn't believe in anymore. I couldn't look at her, couldn't stand the sight of her, not because I hated her, but because I still loved her, and that was worse. My voice cracked, barely above a whisper. "I need air," I said. "I can't be in the same place as you right now." And with that, I grabbed my keys and left. Just left, no jacket, no plan, just my feet carrying me down the steps and into the cold night like I was running from a fire that hadn't finished burning yet. The stars were out, sharp and uncaring. The town was quiet, and so was I. I walked aimlessly, breathing hard, the kind of breathing you do when your chest is trying not to collapse in on itself. Later that night, back at my buddy Drew's place, I sat on his old played couch staring at the ceiling. Didn't sleep. Didn't cry either. There's a kind of numb that takes over after the first explosion, when your mind's still sweeping up the rubble but your heart refuses to come out of hiding. My phone buzzed around 9 a.m. It was Emma, my sister, my best friend growing up. She's always been in my corner, through every scraped knee, every lost job, every Thanksgiving argument. So I picked up, expecting her voice to wrap around me like a quilt. I needed someone to say, "You didn't deserve this." Hey, I answered. But her voice wasn't warm. It was tight, controlled, disapproving. "I talked to Emily," she said. "She told me everything." I waited. Silence on my end. "You have to think about Lily," she continued. "She's still your daughter, no matter what happened." And just like that, something snapped inside me. "Emma," I said, my voice rising, "she lied to me for 3 years. She let me believe Lily was mine. She let me build my life around a child that—" "She is yours," Emma cut in hard. "You changed her diapers. You stayed up when she was sick. You are her father, so get over your pride." My pride? That word stayed with me like a thorn in my skin. It wasn't pride, it was pain, it was betrayal. But Emma didn't understand that. And then the phone rang again. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something told me to answer. Her voice was sharp. No hello, no softness. Just, "I heard what happened, and I'm telling you right now, you need to go home and fix this." I sat there in silence, gripping the phone like it was the only thing tethering me to the earth. "Mom," I started. "No," she snapped. "Don't interrupt me. You married her. You took vows, and that little girl loves you. If you walk away, you're no better than a coward." I closed my eyes. Then came the real blow. "If you go through with this divorce," she said, colder than I'd ever heard her, "I'll disown you." That landed harder than I expected. Mom had never said anything like that to me. Not once. Even when I dropped out of college. Even when I quit that accounting job to work in a bike shop. This was the hill she chose to die on. And I realized something bitter right then. Blood loyalty doesn't always mean they'll stand by your side when it matters. Sometimes it just means they'll protect what they think the family should look like, no matter how much it's rotting underneath. 2 days passed. I kept my distance. Spent time walking, thinking, staring at the ceiling, until it blurred. And then another message from Mom. Long, rambling, filled with scripture and guilt. "If you go through with this divorce," she wrote, "I will never forgive you. You'll be breaking this family apart." I read it once, then twice. My thumb hovered over the reply button, but I didn't type. Because what she didn't seem to understand was this. The family broke the moment the truth came out. I didn't swing the hammer. I just stood there, staring at the cracks that had already split through the foundation. Emily lied. Emma didn't care. And now my own mother was siding with the person who betrayed me, not out of understanding, but out of fear. Fear of shame, of broken pictures, of what people would say at church. That's what hurt the most. No one wanted to talk about what had been done to me. They only wanted to talk about what I might do next and how inconvenient that would be. In the quiet that followed, I found myself wondering, when did the people I loved stop being my people? That's when I realized something cold and clear. This wasn't just about Emily's betrayal. It was about being alone in a room full of family and realizing none of them were standing on your side. There comes a time when you stop rehearsing the conversation in your head and just have it, no matter how much it might hurt, no matter how many parts of yourself you risk leaving behind when you walk away. That time came for me on a Tuesday, right as the sun was dragging its belly across the sky and everything on 7th Street looked like it had given up trying to be warm. I texted her, "Meet me at the cafe, 7th and Pine, 5 p.m. Simple. No please. No, we need to talk. She would know. I got there early, I always do. Something about needing to see the place before the moment happens, needing to claim a corner of the world so I didn't feel like a guest in my own life. I took a seat near the back, facing the door. There was an old radiator in the corner, hissing like it had something to say, and a waitress named June who'd worked there since before smartphones. The clock hit 5:10. That's when she walked in. Emily, my wife, or at least the person who used to be. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Dark circles under her eyes, her skin pale and raw like a frostbitten apple. Her clothes were clean, neat, but hung off her frame like she didn't know how to wear herself anymore. Her shoulders curled inward, like she wanted to vanish inside her own ribcage. She didn't scan the room. She knew exactly where I'd be. And I didn't give her the courtesy of easing into it. No small talk, no have you been, no mercy. Why did you do it? I asked. My voice was low, flat, cold in that specific way only disappointment can be. She sat down, slowly, folded her hands like a child at confession, took a breath. I was scared, she said. Her voice was soft, a little hoarse, but defensive, like she'd rehearsed that line in her head 100 times and still didn't believe it. I didn't plan for this to happen, she added. It just happened. That phrase, it just happened, landed like an insult. Like a house burning down from a lit match someone just happened to drop. I clenched my jaw, teeth tight enough to ache, my fingers curled around the edge of the table. You let me raise a child that wasn't mine, I said, voice still calm but slipping at the edges. You let me love her, build my life around her, around us. And you knew. You knew. Tears welled in her eyes, but I'd stopped seeing those as currency a long time ago. She shook her head, tried to reach for something that might sound noble. I didn't want to lose you, she whispered. You already had, I said. And there it was, the truth between us, sharp as barbed wire. She leaned in, desperation climbing into her voice now. You were happy. We were happy. I didn't mean to hurt you. That made me laugh, not loud, just that short, breathy, bitter kind of laugh that comes when the pain's gotten so big, it's outgrown tears. You thought we were happy, I said, because you were living a lie that worked for you. She started crying then, not the silent, graceful tears you see in movies. These were raw sobs, heaving and messy. Her shoulders shook, her hands trembled, and people in the cafe started glancing our way, trying not to stare. But I didn't move. Didn't reach across the table. Didn't offer a napkin or a kind word. Because I wasn't there to forgive. I was there to finish. I leaned forward slightly, voice steady now. Look, I said, I'm done. She looked up, her face red and wet and stricken. I'm not here to fix this. I'm not interested in patching up something that was fake from the start, and I'm sure as hell not going to be guilt-tripped for raising a little girl who isn't mine. You are her father, she cried, in every way that matters. Ha ha ha, I shook my head slowly. Then maybe you should have given me the truth when it mattered. She covered her face with both hands and wept, loud and messy, the kind of crying that once would have pulled me to my knees. But not now. I stood quietly, pulled on my jacket, the zipper catching for half a second on the fold near my chest. I didn't say goodbye. Didn't offer closure. He didn't explain, because there was nothing left to say. The waitress watched me walk past her, eyes soft with a kind of knowing. The kind of look women from old towns give when they've seen men walk away from the wreckage of love before. I stepped outside. The air was cold, not winter cold, but crisp enough to sting my face. And you know what I felt? Lighter. Not free yet, not healed, but lighter. I stood there for a moment, hands in my pockets, listening to the hum of traffic, the quiet rustle of wind through the trees. Thought about Lily. Thought about how much I loved her. How none of this was her fault. And I knew, no matter what DNA said, no matter what court papers said, she would always be my daughter in the parts of me that mattered. But that didn't mean I could stay. Because staying would have meant letting the lie live longer than it already had. And I was done with lies. So, I left. Not in a blaze of glory, not with packed bags flung into the back of a pickup like in the movies. No, it was quieter than that. It was me, locking the apartment door one last time, key trembling slightly in my hand, and walking away without looking back. I found a small town about 3 hours south, not too far, but far enough. The kind of place where no one knew my name, and more importantly, no one knew hers. It had a diner that still served pie by the slice, a library with real card catalogs, and enough space between the houses to breathe. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment on the second floor of a weathered old building that smelled faintly of cedar and coffee grounds. Nothing fancy, no polished hardwood or marble counters, just a small kitchen, a window that faced the sunrise, and a floor that creaked in the middle like it was sighing beneath your feet. It was mine. That first night, I sat cross-legged on the bare floor, a box of takeout on one side and a cold beer on the other. The only light came from a cheap floor lamp and the soft glow of the streetlight outside. There was no laughter in the background, No little feet thudding across the floor. No sound of someone brushing their teeth or humming while folding laundry. Just me and the silence. And for the first time in a long, long while, that silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. It didn't happen all at once. Healing never does. But piece by piece, I began to stitch something new together. A life that was mine, a rhythm that didn't revolve around someone else's lies. I started waking up early, walking to the bakery 2 blocks away, reading the paper with strangers who didn't ask about my past. I fixed up an old bike, planted herbs on the windowsill, cooked dinner for one without feeling sorry for myself. And every night I reminded myself, this wasn't the life I thought I'd have, but it was a life I chose. A few weeks in, I got a message from my mother, just a short one. I hope you're okay. We're still here if you come to your senses. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just let it sit there on the screen until the words dulled, and then I deleted it, no reply, because I finally understood something that took me 33 years to learn. Not everyone who shares your blood shares your values, and not every kind of love is worth holding on to. I still think about Lily, more than I'd like to admit. Some mornings, I wake up with her laugh echoing in my ears, and it takes a second to remember she's not in the next room. That ache hasn't left me. Maybe it never will. But I know this much. The love I gave her was real. It was honest, and that's more than I can say for the world I left behind. Now, I'm building something slower, steadier, a life measured in small joys. Coffee at sunrise, a clean apartment, a voice that no longer shakes when I say, I deserve better. This isn't the ending I imagined when I walked down the aisle or held Lily for the first time, but maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning I needed. Dear listeners, if you've ever had to start over, if you've ever had to walk away from something that no longer served your soul, know this: the silence you fear might just be the peace you've been craving all along. And if this story meant something to you, go ahead and leave your thoughts below. I read every word. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, not just for the stories we tell, but for the quiet strength they remind us we still carry. You're not alone. And sometimes, walking away isn't the end, it's the beginning.